So in this video, I'm going to try to explain and argue to you why you should probably start spending a lot more money on your ads, or more specifically, figure out how you can spend more money on your ads. And I know that's really broad, but we're going to get into it. We've had a topic come up on a call this week with one of our clients that at the time it was small, but we've just started talking more and more and more about it over the course of this week with some team members. And it's something that a lot of business owners don't talk about when it comes to their marketing dollars, their marketing efficiency rates. And it's something that we focus on that helps drive some of our best performing, top performing ad accounts. So a little bit about how we do media buying here at Brotherdale. Back in the early days of media buying, I think as most people when they get started, we were just really, really obsessed with how many purchases for like an e-com brand we were getting and what was our return on ad spend, right? But we don't really view things that way anymore. There's a lot of data we look at, but the two largest data points we rely on when we're first onboarding an e-commerce brand are the following. For some of you, you're already gonna know this stuff. For some of you, this is gonna be new information. So item number one is customer acquisition cost. How much money does your brand have to spend to get a customer into the brand? How much money do you have to spend to get that first purchase? What is your cost to acquire the customer? Pretty self-explanatory, right? Second number we look at, equally as important, is then what is the LTV or lifetime value of that customer? So how much money does that customer spend with your brand over a period of time? There's a lot of schools of thought here of how long of a time frame. Generally, when we bake out a money math model is what we call it, 6-month and 12-month lifetime value of a customer is what we like to look at. Things can get a little wonky when you look too broad on certain types of models, but customer acquisition cost, lifetime value. These two numbers are extremely important to us. They basically tell you as a brand owner how much money you can spend to acquire a customer and how much money you will make off of them during their time with your brand. So real quick, how do we get these numbers, right? Especially on the acquisition costs. Lifetime value is very easy. Most platforms such as Shopify, you can just do a customer cohort analysis and just be able to extract, hey, data-wise, here's how much a customer spends with our brand over 12 months. Customer acquisition cost, I have a whole formula pulled up. It's a spreadsheet that we use internally at Brotherdale that I'm probably not going to share, but I'll give you an example of some things, right? So in your customer acquisition cost, there's going to be things like your gross margin. There's going to be things like shipping costs, influencer or creator fees, payment processing. So long story short, the whole top of the sheet is filling out basically your cost of doing business. Second part of our sheet is going through known company data, like what is your average order value or AOV? How frequently does a customer shop? How many months or purchases per year do they shop with you, and your lifetime value, as well as this is a pretty important one, your desired margin. Desired margin is pretty essential for this formula. All of this usually then equates to us a acquisition cost range, and it is a range on our spreadsheet. So on the spreadsheet, after we input all this data, you'll see a whole list of numbers. We'll just say for this brand that I'm looking at right now, this is actually one of our clients. Bottom range is $28 after the formula runs. The sweet spot is $40 and the high range is $52. So what these ranges mean are sweet spots our goal. We want to be spending as much money as we can spend while acquiring a customer at $40 customer acquisition costs. I know you're probably thinking, why wouldn't we go lower? Why would we try to push that lower? How this model works is if you're getting customers for cheaper than that, you're basically leaving meat on the bone. You're leaving customers out there that you could pay more money to acquire that you're simply not. So yeah, it sounds great if we can get you down to like a $28 customer acquisition cost, but what we should be doing to get you as many new customers and as much lifetime value into your brand as possible is getting spend up and spending until around 40. Go too high, we started seeing customer acquisition costs for this brand creep into the $50 range. It basically would mean we're overspending, and we could be spending almost the identical, we could be spending less and getting almost an identical result for the client. Generally what we do when we onboard an e-commerce account is we define our customer acquisition cost ranges. And these are the North Stars of the ad account. This is what we try to accomplish for the client. How high can we scale your spend while achieving your customer acquisition cost range? So all that to preface, customer acquisition costs, and then lifetime value. This is what the conversation was about. A lot of the e-commerce brands that we work with, they focus a lot. They put their focus into first acquisition cost. And a lot of the times their main question is, how do we get it cheaper? Right? Seems to make sense. How do I acquire customers cheaper and cheaper? How do I drive my acquisition costs down? The whole game of media buying, the whole game of marketing is, how do I increase volume? How do I spend more? How do I put more brand messaging into the ethos? How do I basically eat up more market share? And people who tend to focus on, how do I get costs cheaper? How do I get cheaper customer acquisition costs? They usually lose, right? Because as you scale spend up, you're going to start delivering your ads to worse and worse qualified audiences. So your acquisition costs are naturally going to rise. And a lot of brands, they get scared about that. They see acquisition costs rising, they pull back spend. So what the discussion that we had with the client was, and what we've been having internally is, if you only focus on these front end variables in your business, and you only focus on things like your first acquisition cost, the average order value of that first acquisition cost, and it's just always a conversation of, how do I get this cheaper? You're only going to be able to scale so high. And the ultimate goal is to spend more money. So how do you accomplish that? Well, there are so many things that happen post your customer leaving their experience of your ads and their experience with us at Brotherdale, right? We control front end, content creative, and then running paid media. When a customer walks in the front door of your business, enters your ecosystem of e-commerce, there's so much that happens beyond their day one that can increase the value of that customer to your business. And so many brands focus on front end value and not back end value. And this is all going to tie together here, because if you as a brand owner make the decision to focus on back end value, it is one of the quickest and easiest ways to dominate in your ad account, because it simply unlocks the ability to spend more money. How does that work? Let's get into it. Let's talk about post-purchase interaction, or even pre-purchase add to cart interaction. How do we increase order value or lifetime value of customers, right? We're always saying, how do we get cheaper purchases? But rarely is the brand owner talking about, how do we increase order value? How do we increase cart size? Or how do we increase lifetime value? Because this is what's powerful. If you can increase either AOV or LTV, the total amount of dollars that you can spend on your marketing exponentially increases. It skyrockets. And what you're going to be surprised by the end of this is the tiny amount of movement that you need in order to create large jumps in the amount of ad spend you can put out there to acquire customers and remain just as profitable at lower levels of customer acquisition costs. So how do you do that, right? How do I get a customer? How do I have a brand who I'm selling a product routinely and we get a better upsell? We're just going to take this customer and their exact data and recommendations that we've made to them. So this customer's right now, their AOV is almost exactly $60. AOV of $60 is decently strong in most of our clients' e-commerce space. It's usually the full value price of one item. So how do you increase that, right? Our part of media buyers is to drive product value and purchase intent. Back end on that website, CRO, conversion rate optimization, CRO plays a huge role in increasing cart value and like total amount of checkouts, conversion rates, etc. Minutia detail tweaks through CRO can lead to large increases to your average order value. Things such as in-cart upsells, last chance offers, other customers liked. These are all things that can increase average order value, things to take action right on the spot. Now that's an immediate order value increase. Most people will think immediate. I'm sure a lot of you had those activations on your Shopify campaign or on your Shopify store for your campaigns. A lot of the people don't think about long-term order value increase. What do I mean by that? If you're an e-commerce brand, you have multiple SKUs and you're acquiring new customers, what are you doing over a long period of time to educate your customer via email, YouTube, TikTok, Instagram, shorts, educational content, text messaging, influencer campaigns? What are you doing to educate the customer who entered the door for one of your SKUs on the additional SKUs to get them to over time reshop? And when they do reshop, they're buying 2, 3, 4 items in the future. Long-term AOV increase is actually a relatively easy game because it's mainly just done through education. And all that really takes is the work of you building all that infrastructure, building those educational sequences, putting those YouTube videos out there, and then simply just pointing your customer to them. If you're able to educate a customer over time and their AOV increases through education, you're going to find yourself in a scenario where in your Shopify store or whatever platform you're on, you'll see AOV numbers increase. And then obviously innately when AOV increases, average order value increases, lifetime value increases. But a lot of average order value increases, that is mainly done through quick call to action upsells and then education of products, right? Like the whys. Let's talk about lifetime value. Obviously, you're probably thinking, oh, cool. Well, if I increase AOV, LTV will increase. And you're correct, right? If on average the order is higher, the lifetime value will be higher. But LTV has a bunch of other levers that you can pull to increase lifetime value. Lifetime value can be driven sky high without having to increase average order value or without having to do much in terms of anything product related, because lifetime value is simply the length of time somebody spends with you and your brand. And don't get me wrong, you can just have a phenomenal product and you're probably going to have a strong LTV if your product's good enough. But a lot of people nowadays, the products are never enough to drive them to have a strong lifetime value with the brand, because people are doing business with people and with the people behind brands now more than ever, right? I was just talking to my buddy about this other day. I don't buy Tesla, I buy from Elon Musk. I don't buy Tiramana tequila, but I buy Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson's tequila because he's the man, right? People are doing business with people. And if you want people to stick around with your brand and increase lifetime value because they'll continue buying the product to be a part of the brand, you have to create culture and you have to create ways for people to engage with your brand. There are almost an infinite amount of ways to do this. I'm just going to quickly rinse through some of my favorite ways to do this, right? Very popular way. This has been around for a while, but create a Discord community. Doesn't have to be Discord. It can really be any communication platform. Create an area where people who really want to get involved with the brand can A, speak with people inside the brand, and B, speak with other people who really want to be in the brand. Obviously, social media can facilitate this, but Discord really brings that chat room community to life and really encourages day-to-day engagement. There's also really fun activations you can do with the brand for your Discord community, such as voting on product creation, voting on like flavors if you have flavor involved with your brand, early secret releases, product testing, create an affiliate program through there. But Discord is a very powerful way to get people wrapped up in community and spend significantly larger amounts of money with your brand over time. Second one, and I think this is a huge missed opportunity that most brands have, is every time somebody places an order, what do they do? What do you do, I should say? Your team goes to the warehouse, they pack the order, they ship out. That's your physical touch point with the person. That's most of the times your only physical touch point with the person is I pack this box and I send this box to you. Inbox activations. Lots of brands are very famous for this. My top two that easily come to mind, there's a supplement brand called First Form. In their early days, they would write a handwritten thank you note and put it inside every single box that they shipped out. And I shouldn't just say this in their early days. They're famous for doing this at all sizes and scale of their company. They are well into, I believe, 9-figure territory, and they've still managed to maintain the inbox thank you card even at that volume. I believe that they even have an entire department that handles it. That's number one. My second one, and this is probably one that's more for like a small up and coming brand as well, there's a brand called State and Liberty. It's actually the shirt I'm wearing right now. They make awesome athletic like business wear for people who need a little bit of stretch. In their early days, they would send out a card, basically with a thank you note from the owners on it, right? And it was pre-printed, but it was still a nice touch. And it basically explained their brand story, that they were small guys and thank you for supporting them. That was powerful in and of itself. One of the other really cool things that that brand did then was upon repeat shoppers, and obviously this would be on the box activation, when you got a strong enough ordering history with them, you would actually enter an email sequence or a flow that acknowledged your level of contribution to the brand and invited you to basically become an affiliate, saying like, you're buying so much of this stuff that you should be involved in our affiliate program. And here's how to get joined. So just kind of attention to detail there, little tiny brand touches. So Discord community, inbox activation, another big one, community events. You see this everywhere now. You see it all over the place. People are doing pop-ups, meet and greets. I mean, you basically can't go to a big like business convention, fitness convention, A4M, some of the types of events we go to without the majority of these brands' efforts and displays being around, come meet the people behind the brand, right? Very rarely anymore, come try the product. They'll have the product there, but it's, hey, guess what? The faces, the people behind the brand are going to be there. Community meetups are huge. I've seen things lately, such as like run clubs for completely not running related brands pop up all over the place and gaining crazy amounts of traction. But bringing people out of the e-commerce internet space and making them have a real world touch. Little things like that can drive huge lifetime value to brands. There are dozens and dozens and dozens of ways to increase LTV and AOV. And maybe I'll do an entire another video on literally over a decade of media buying, the best activations I've seen. The whole point here is there's a lot of brands having discussions on like content and how do we decrease cost per purchase or increase ROAS. There's not a lot of brands having discussions of, we are getting new people in the door. Are we extracting the maximum amount of value from them? And are we tying them to the brand? And are we getting them to shop long-term? Now, here's how it all ties together. Check this out. You start doing these things. You start activating on the back end of customer acquisition. You start increasing average order value and lifetime value. What does that do for your media buying efforts and budget? So let's take this brand that we did for the example right here. The average order was $60. Let's say they get a slight increase in average order value. So the average order value is $60 and that's one product. So let's assume they don't even sell 2 products. Let's say they sell 1.5 products. That would take their average order value. We'll say the new AOV is $90 now, right? Not even selling 2 products. It's half of that original product cost. If this brand can get their AOV up 1.5 to a $90, what that then does, I'm actually going to stick it into my little calculator over here. That takes these sweet spots over here to the following. Their low end becomes $42. Their low end, their signal that says we're not even spending close to enough to get customers, has now increased to where their sweet spot was prior. Their new sweet spot jumps up to $61 and their too high spot goes up to $79. By getting a slight amount of movement in their average order value, it increased the amount that they're allowed to spend on their marketing by, what is that? I'm no mathematician, but I think that's close to 33%. I know these numbers and percentages can seem small, but when you take into account a brand like this that's spending hundreds of thousands of dollars on marketing, a 33% jump in somebody's budget can be thousands and thousands and thousands of new customers at the exact same profitability that they were doing prior. Winning better in the long term because you're getting more people introduced to the brand, larger lifetime values out of them, more cross-pollination, and basically just better exposure and domination of the market. More brands need to be focusing on not just how do I pay to get customers in my door, but once they're in the door, how do I A, make sure they stick around for a really, really long time? And then B, how do I make sure I introduce them to everything we do here and extract the most amount of value with their relationship in my brand? Biggest media buying hack I can say is spending more money. It is one of the try-it-all ways to scale accounts. Your CAC is going to go up. It's going to cost more to acquire customers, but that shouldn't scare you. Spending more to acquire customers is good as long as you have all the back-end infrastructure in place to make sure that you are still netting the same amount of money and getting the same margins, if not better sometimes, through brand building activities, things that you should already be doing if you want to be a brand that sticks around, has a name, has a face, has a legacy. So I hope this was helpful. We'll probably film another video in the future of actually all the AOV and LTV activations that I've seen throughout my career that were successes. Maybe we'll even do a video on all the flops and help you guys avoid some pain. So hope that made sense. Long story short, do better branding, make better products, connect with your customers, and just spend more money on marketing.